may have talked about this before, but I think there's kind of a little bit of a problem with pedal demos, and in particular drive pedal demos. It's not actually a problem with demos, it's kind of a problem with drive pedals in general. What it is essentially that drive pedals can sound vastly different depending on what you plug them into, and so getting a point of comparison is super difficult, especially if it's like, in the past I might have watched demos from someone like Sean Tubbs or whoever, you know, Sean Tubbs I say because I particularly like his playing and think he gets great tones out of pretty much everything. The problem is that I don't think it's very easy to establish a baseline at all, because most of the time you don't see pedals compared to anything else. And so what I was doing here in the introduction here was I just picked 4 pedals randomly out of the cupboard. So this one is actually made by Thorpe. It was before he kind of had his main kind of business. This is a Wampler Euphoria clone, which I was actually quite surprised by. I kind of liked the fuzzy edge to this one. Then we've also got the Rockett El Hombre. It's probably not how you say that, is it? El Hombre? I don't know, is the H silent? Who knows? But this was supposed to be like a ZZ Top inspired, I think, ZZ Top, we call it that, but like Dumble-ish. This is the Boss OD3, which is a relatively inexpensive, but I think very pleasant drive pedal. And then this is an inexpensive Nux XTC OD. Now, I don't know, let me know your thoughts in the comments about which you like the sound of the most. To me, this one stuck out to me as being potentially the most different. And so this is what I was kind of thinking about here when I'm thinking like, do I need some of these pedals? And this, for me, is the only way that I can realistically evaluate this sort of stuff. It is to play them side by side into the same preset and find, you know, are these doing things that I want them to do? Now, I have to say there's considerable overlap, I think, between these 3 pedals, to the point where I'm pretty sure that I could dial in something even closer than I got. You know, I wasn't even trying to dial in anything close with these, but they've all got a bit of a mid hump. There was a bit more gain available on this one and some more clipping options, and this one was voiced a little bit darker, maybe more bass, but you know, all within this ballpark of this kind of smooth mid forward kind of lead tone, right? And the point with a lot of these things is that I don't think that necessarily I would need 3 variations of that. You know, if I was building a pedal board, I'd only probably want one of them on a board at a time, right? Whereas this didn't have that mid hump, right? And this was a bit more of a kind of cutting, a bit more of a whatever. I'm not saying it's better or worse, but it definitely didn't have as much of a mid hump, and therefore stood out from those 3, the other 3 that is, as being potentially more sparkly, more fizzy as well, but also ultimately more useful, I think, and having less overlap with what I'd already got covered here. And I was wondering maybe, you know, if that was the way forward for kind of evaluating your own pedal choices. I guess if there's one thing you don't probably, well, this is my opinion now, but what you don't necessarily want to end up with if you're kind of trying to be non-gear hoardy or, you know, not succumbing to gas, is ending up with lots of pedals that do exactly the same thing. So for me, one of the sounds that I really like is the Dumble kind of overdrive sound. And to some extent, the OD3, the Euphoria, this El Hombre, the Dude, the Van Wielden Royal Overdrive, all of these do that to an extent, right? And I think the Van Wielden does them best. That's the one that I'm keeping. So to some extent, do I need to keep all these other options? Probably not, right? And so I was thinking, you know, I could equally do that same kind of experiment. I did it as well with the JHS at pedal, which I found to be quite similar to a Dude in the settings that I was using. And I did that in a random kind of comparison with the Blues Driver. I say random, I guess I was doing it because Andy Timmons uses both of them. And I found the Blues Driver to be more unique. And, you know, so could there be, you know, an argument that you'd want lots of pedals that do an amount of pedals, so any amount of pedals that you have, you want to kind of minimize in is what I'm asking, the kind of overlap that you can get with these things. And this, again, I guess takes me back to that kind of question about the Chase Bliss Automatone, where, you know, as close as these things might be to one another, you know, if you sold 3 or 4 or 5 of these pedals, you could probably get a thing like the Automatone, which can do a version of all of them, maybe. I don't know. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. So the Blues Driver stands out to me as being something quite unique. This XTC overdrive is not necessarily the most pleasant thing that I've ever heard, but in terms of like a more distortion-based thing which doesn't have that mid-hump, I think that's useful. Any of these 3 would be fine for this job. I think the Wampler Euphoria might be the one that sticks out to me as being slightly more versatile. I did like the El Hombre, but that was pretty much with its gain up full, which wasn't great, and the bite was up nearly full as well. So in terms of the range of tones in that pedal, a little bit more limited. The Boss OD3 I like because it's quite cheap anyway, and the XTC OD is cheap. Maybe I need to get some pedals out of the cupboard and kind of think about these a little bit more carefully. So this one is worth nothing as well, so maybe that's on the keep list. I need to get the spreadsheet out again. Actually, the pedal thing was the thing that inspired me in the first place to think about selling some of these things, just because, you know, you end up with a lot of these little boxes, or I did, and, you know, I'm most of the time not really using them. They're kind of nice to have around, and they're quite cool little things, and they look cool when they don't take up too much space. They're relatively cheap compared to guitars or amps, but I've got, I think, a fair amount of overlap. Let's just jump into the Euphoria again. The clean tone sounds like this. So, you know, it's taken us from clean to and we got other clipping options, I would have guessed. Open and smooth. But that crunch one was the one I liked best. If we take the bass down, we get rid of some of that fuzz. Just a really nice range of options. Then, so that would be, I think, my favourite pedal out of that bunch. Comparatively, this thing is a little bit more on the spiky side. But it might be really good for this kind of lower gain, sparkly stuff. Kind of like more riffage kind of bass things. And that's not really anything any of those other pedals could do. So this is what I'm kind of thinking, like maybe that's a reason to keep this versus a thing that I thought, I don't like that as much. Actually, you know, if it came to the thing when you're like, right, I need something that can do kind of a more rocky, kind of martially, metally, you know, classic rocky tone, then I wouldn't really be reaching for my mid-push kind of Dumble-ish pedals. This is the sort of thing that's going to be more useful. Yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments. Do you need variety within these pedals, or do you go for the same kind of tones that you like in pedals? Do you have like a tendency to buy more or less the same thing multiple times? I'd be interested to know your thoughts. Catch you in another video soon. Feel free to like and subscribe, and sell all your stuff on Reverb. Cheers!